masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. How you doing? Good evening, everybody. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Today's Wednesday, December 20th. 354 days into the new year, just 11 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? Today is DD5. It is. It's DD5. 5 days after disclosure. What an extraordinary week it has been. And tonight, how cool is this? Tonight we have very special guest. Marshall Summers is joining the show. Marshall has been talking about exactly what went down this week for about 30 years. And before I get around to all of that and Marshall and my excitement about the show tonight, I'm going to go back about a month. And I was checking out some of Marshall's stuff and writing, I'm doing my stuff and having fun and researching and I listened to a couple of Marshall's interviews and I'm like, you know what? It's about time we get Marshall on the show. So boom, we go and we get all that arranged and we line things up and it happens and we book this show and excited about it because of the content and it was everything that we love to talk about and spread that knowledge about, right? And then all of this stuff happens on Saturday. So wow, right? And right before Christmas, today is December 20th. Heading into the new year, 2018, is just 11 days away. So, yeah, that makes this show tonight all that more important. So I'm very excited about this. And tonight, I get my learn on in front of all of you. So let's do it together. Tonight, Marshall Summers is here. Tomorrow night is another Fader night, a No More Fake Newsroom with John Rappaport, followed by Open Lines. Now, we did a special show on disclosure on Saturday night. And then, of course, last night was our 4th anniversary show. And the subjects, and including the night before with Daryl Sims, that's all everybody wants to talk about. It's all I want to talk about. And it's all that mainstream media wants to talk about. So tomorrow night's going to be Open Lines all night long. We know what the subject is going to be. I have no idea what's going to continue to break overnight and throughout tomorrow and how the news coverage is going to stay there. It has been now 5 straight days of mainstream media coverage on disclosure. It's been a crazy, crazy, crazy ride. And so I can't wait. Tomorrow I'll get to talk to all of you. And I want to hear your happiness, your joy, your concerns. Are you unhappy? All right? That's going to be tomorrow night on Fade to Black. Okay. Twitter, at JChurch Radio. Very simple. Join in on the conversation tonight. Hashtag F2B is where you do it. Follow me on Twitter at JChurch Radio. And then, of course, the sandbox, which is hashtag F2B. Any questions or comments during the show tonight or any other night? Hashtag F2BQ. Okay. The good news. My wife and daughter got back from New York. And they busted into the bunker last night during the show, towards the end of the show. And it's been Rita says my math is off. It doesn't matter. 6 days, 7 days they spent in New York. And nothing is cooler than to sit with your daughter and listen to her until the wee hours of the morning and let her tell you about her first trip to Manhattan. It doesn't get any better than that. And it's just great. So they're safe. They're cool. And I didn't get my New York T-shirt. All right. I didn't get my New York T-shirt. Thinking about it, though, the last time we were in New York last year, I didn't get a T-shirt then either, Going by. I bought T-shirts for everybody else but myself. I do have you know what I do have? Check this out. I'm going to show this on the bunker cam. I got this. I got this New York Police Department. Okay? Right? It's a New York Police Department coffee travel thermal mug thing. And I stole this. I stole it. I stole this from the set of our new TV show on history when we were shooting in New York. And this was a prop that one of the producers bought. And it was just one of those things. Nobody asked me about it. I got it into my luggage and got this baby home. There you go. So that's what I brought back from New York. Okay. So Rita's back. Everything is good and just an amazing week. Rita knew about the disclosure stuff and listening to her all day today, talking about the coverage and the different things that are going on out there. Now, she's here and it's pretty exciting, but I got to tell you, she brought me down to earth about it too, as well. Okay, let's move on. You can email throughout the show, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Simple enough. Now, also, because Rita is here, now my email starts to get screened again, which is also a cool thing. Our next appearance is coming up, the Conscious Life Expo, February 9th through the 12th, 2018, at the LAX Hilton. Tickets and info are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Just click on the Conscious Life Expo banner right there. We have a full weekend of activities for all of you. Friday night, I'll be hosting opening night, the Ancient Aliens panel with Linda Moulton Howe, David Wilcock, Jay Widener, Corey Good, William Henry, all stars of Ancient Aliens. All have shows on Gaia, too. Kind of strange. 5 for 5. So it just goes to show you, Ancient Aliens has got the best of the best, and then Gaia's got the best of the best, right? So that'll be Friday night, the Ancient Aliens panel. And I'm also going to be doing a tribute to the late Jim Mars. And one cannot help but think he was just a few months away. If he could have just hung on, he could have saw the events of this past weekend. He would have been my first guest on the show as that stuff was breaking. I could just hear it now. Well, we'll do a tribute to the great Jim Mars, also Friday night at the Conscious Life Expo, February 9th. Okay, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We have over 775 archive shows, custom apps, Apple, Android, everything is there. You can go to the Apple Store. You can go to Google Store, pick up the apps. Those are free. Just download those. And then just head over to our site and register over at Libsyn. $2 a month. It's like the best deal ever, right? So just go and do that and help support the show. And become a Fadernaut too as well. I did make sure that a few really cool packages got out in time for Christmas, and we will continue to try to get that done so everybody can have their stuff before Christmas. But you can go and do everything that you need to do over in our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. All of our sponsors. Now, today, I got, check it out. Got my 1,000 milligram cinnamon CBDs right there, man. Woo, just got that. Got another batch of a foundation from New Pharma, Ancient Life Oil, and, of course, Get the Tea, Super Strength Tea. Everything came in yesterday. We got the new Fade to Black coffee. Well, not the new, but it's in new packaging. I'm going to take some pictures of it. It's really, really cool. It's in this brown packaging instead of the silver foil, which I loved. But this is really, really cool. So we got that yesterday, too, as well. River Moon Coffee. And don't forget about new Mana Food Storage and Bearing Optics. With that, let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, Kiss Stickman Peter Criss is 72. Now, what comes to mind when you think about Peter Criss? Is it the whiskers? Or is it the song Beth? What is it? Or is it, the double kick, black drum set that was in the middle of Kiss Alive 2 when you opened it up and they had the explosions going off, remember, and the big elevator ramps. I'm going to check in Twitter right now. I know you guys in Twitter are posting pictures of Kiss Alive 2. All right. Yeah. Scott just posted Jim Mars now has all the answers. You know what? He's also asking all the questions. All right. That's a good point. Peter Criss today is 72. Jonah Hill today is 34. On this day in history, OTD, it went down. The big deal, 1957, Elvis Presley was drafted. Say it ain't so, Joe. Was got sent to what, Frankfurt for a couple of years? Fader fact, I guess today is all rock and roll day, right? Peter Criss, Elvis Presley. Well, check this out. This is a Fader fact. David Bowie had a heart attack on stage in 2004. Had a heart attack. Paused for a minute, shook it off, and then continued the show. That's it. That's right. All right. Hey, he was on our label, Jimmy. I have an unplugged version of Beth. Really? I remember seeing Peter Criss's band. I forget what it was called. Had a female singer play at Gazzari's. We opened for them. I can't remember the name of that band. That was like it's probably 1985. All right, tonight Marshall Summers is here. He'll be here in a few short minutes with these days of disclosure and everything that is going down right now. One of the big questions that I had yesterday was religion. That is the one segment right now that has been strangely silent. And now the silence of the Oval Office and the White House, that's not as telling. They know that the DOD released this video. So that's the way that stuff is going down. But what's going on with the religious side, and contact and alien contact and everything else that we need to concentrate on moving forward as a human race on this planet. It's exactly why Marshall Summers is here. So get ready for that. But also, with all of this mass media coverage, I got to hit this coffee here. Be careful what you wish for. We've wanted nothing but. Now, this show, today is day number 1 of our 5th year on the air. And I have spent the better part of those 4 years, nearly every single day on this show, discussing disclosure. I have asked hundreds and hundreds of callers into this show, what's your definition of disclosure? On the flip side of that, I have had hundreds and hundreds of phone calls, both here and on Coast to Coast, where the first question from that caller is, Jimmy, disclosure. When's it going to get here? What do you think? Right? That's it. The D word. And Saturday rolls around, and we have this massive campaign that was started first with the New York Times and then just took off from there and went around the world on every single website, news media outlet, television, interviews, NPR, print, every form of media covered this story in every language. Okay? So now, boom. There are aspects to this that for anyone, it's exactly what we asked for. An official government video. We have the pilot of the plane. We have a bona fide, unidentified flying object, UFO, shot in two different sets of videos. We have that. We have the Pentagon running a UFO investigation program when allegedly they hadn't been since the closing of Project Blue Book. But, of course, we knew that was going on. But this was confirmation that it was indeed happening. So it allowed all of us in our community to go see we're not crazy. So we have that part. And then, of course, we have a senator that's involved, and we have a Pentagon black budget, and we have $22 million and so forth. Now, this is what we've asked for. So now that it has happened, it is strange to me that everybody wanted some mass media coverage with UFOs. Now, I can tell you, after 5 straight days of UFOs on CNN, okay, 5, all day long, every host has had their guest on, and it's been going all day long. Now, it's what you want. And now there are those out there that are going, man, but it's the mass media. Wait a minute. I can assure you of this. And it doesn't matter who the author is, who the researcher is. It just doesn't matter. Everybody wants coverage in the mass media. They want to have that legitimate side of their research and their books and their story, and to be out there in the mainstream. Okay, so that part of it, I just don't buy into. So if there are critics out there or people that, even friends or listeners to this show that want to tell me, oh, man, but it's the mass media. What do you mean? That's exactly what we've wanted. Okay, 100%. There isn't an author out there. There's not a researcher out there. I don't care who it is that CNN calls, Fox calls, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, ABC. It doesn't matter. BBC, RT, it doesn't, Bloomberg, it doesn't matter. They call and go, hey, can you come on the air tonight? Sure can. Well, can you check your schedule? Schedule's open. I don't need to check. Whatever I have, it's canceled. And that, my friends, is the truth. So, with all of that, today on CNN, they bring on the man, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil deGrasse Tyson. So I watched the whole thing, just so you know. I'm not speculating here. They bring on Neil deGrasse. Now, before I get to what he had to say, let me tell you what I think about him. I like the show Cosmos. I like the reboot of it. Got criticism. There's things on it I can critique, but the show itself is pretty good. I like the approach to it. Okay? All right. But that's about it. Neil deGrasse Tyson, astrophysicist, author, right? Now calls himself a science communicator. Neil deGrasse Tyson hasn't been an astrophysicist, a physicist, a scientist of any kind since 1995. Okay? He hasn't. It's been over 20 years since he's done research into anything. Anything. All he is now today is a rock star. That's what he is. He's a celebrity today. The only gig that he has, and it's ceremonial, he has been the Frederick P. Rose director of the Hayden Planetarium at the Rose Center for the Earth and Space in New York City. I don't even know the last time he's been inside that parking lot. I don't know the last time he's been inside of a lab or done any research or written a paper submitted a paper, looked through a telescope. I doubt he does any of that. He's a rock star. Okay, he runs around, he speaks publicly, he writes books, does the author book tour thing, and appears on TV when they need comments on stuff. And it's a great life. But that's Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I'm just calling it right now because nobody wants to just fess up to the reality of who Neil deGrasse Tyson is. I'm not saying he's not smart. He's uber smart. And I'm not saying he doesn't have a big brain. He's got a big brain. But today on CNN, he proved to the world that he is a doofus with a big brain. And I'll stand up to Neil and argue these points anytime. I've sat and watched him with Richard Dawkins. I've seen him on all the talks. I've seen him on the long-form interviews. I've seen him on comedy shows. I've seen his comments on Flat Earth. I know Neil, and I know his points on everything. And I'll take him to task. Now, when I say Neil hasn't done anything, right? He hasn't reached. He hasn't. He's a rock star today. From 1995 to 2005, he wrote monthly essays in The Universe, right? A column for Natural History magazine. Okay, no research. He's writing. He published a book, Death by Black Hole, in 2007, and Astrophysics for People in a Hurry in 2017. During the same period, he wrote a monthly column for Star Date magazine, answering questions about the universe under a pen name Merlin. Material from the column appeared in his book Merlin's Tour of the Universe in 1998, and Just Visiting This Planet. Now, Tyson served on the 2001 Government Commission on Future of the United States Aerospace Industry, big deal, ceremonial thing. And then on 2004, Moon, Mars, and Beyond Commission. He was awarded the NASA Distinguished Public Service Medal the same year. From 2006 to 2011, he hosted the television show Nova Science on PBS. 2009, he's hosted the podcast Star Talk. Spinoff, also called Star Talk, began airing on National Geographic in 2015. And also, he hosted in 2014 the reboot of Cosmos, A Space-Time Odyssey. That is it. No research, no published papers, no nothing. I'm not saying he's not a smart guy, but he's the wrong guy to bring on CNN or anybody else, any network, to talk about disclosure and aliens. And so he gets on CNN today. Now I'll get to the critique of his doofusness today. The CNN host turns to him and says, "So what about this, the gun camera footage? Obviously, it's a UFO. Yes, it's an unidentified flying object, which means we don't know what it is." Well, that's exactly the point, Neil. And he says, immediately diverts off of that question and says, well, there was a $22 million program that was instituted to look into this, and that's why they've chosen to do this. But the $22 million Pentagon, now, there's trillions of dollars that is spent in the military, and $22 million is a very little slice of it. And so, it's not like that they were doing research into this, but they should, and they should look into it. But no, this is, and I'm like, wait a minute. The question was, what did you think of the gun camera footage? What did you think of that? Now, to divert off of that and go into this $22 million program and everything else was stunning. He couldn't say what he really wanted to say. What he needed to say and what he wanted to say was, and I know this because he said it before, but he didn't do it today, is that you're crazy if you think that we're alone in the universe. The universe is full of life. And now, is this a UFO that is alien from out there? I don't know. It looks interesting. If the Pentagon and a pilot flying this airplane, an FA-18 captain, is looking at this and says, we've got a bogey, I don't know what we're looking at, look at this thing, this is absolutely amazing, then we need to take this pilot for his word, because he is chasing down something that is not of this earth. He's never seen anything like it. We have to trust an FA-18 Hornet's eyes. So we need to know. We need to go and look into this. It may not be from here. And if it's not, I'm interested in this. And I think we should go and find out. No. Tyson decided to laugh. Aliens, ha, 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 come on. And that's the wrong way to approach any of this. If you are an astrophysicist interested in the universe and continued research and are wondering what is going on out there in our universe, and if we are being visited on this planet, that is exactly, as an astrophysicist, what you should be interested in. And you finally had some evidence. You know that the Pentagon is involved, possibly the CIA, the former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, and people coming out talking about this program. You should say, I want to know what's going on. This is great. I have been wondering since I was a little kid if we're alone in the universe. And finally, we've got something like this here that seems absolutely legit with a chain of custody behind the video. I want to know. Because as I look at this video, certainly this thing is traveling at high speed. It went, just so everybody understands here, it went from a standing spot in one place to one back to its cap point, right, at 3,800 miles an hour, and it did it instantly. Now, also that there's two sets of footage here, which Tyson has seen both. One video shows the Tic Tac UFO sitting there off the surface of the ocean. And Fravor is zoning in on the nose with his aircraft. And it's just sitting there. When this takes off, according to Fravor's testimony, he said there was no ripples in the water. There was no air turbulence. There was no distortion on the water surface that you would see from a helicopter, from a plane, from a turboprop, from a jet engine, anything like that. You would see the disturbance, and none of that was there, and poof, it was gone. Now, certainly an astrophysicist that wants to make comments about alien life and the universe would be interested in a statement like that. But what Neil deGrasse Tyson proved to us today is that he's a doofus. He's a talking head, and he's a rock star. And now he is completely out of his wheelhouse. And as sorry as I am to say this, and I loved Cosmos, Neil deGrasse Tyson today, in dismissing this when finally there is something there for all of us to discuss, and he has chosen to make fun of it, is now, in my world, a canceled check. Sorry, Neil. That's just the way that it is. A couple of years ago, reached out to him for, to be a guest on the show. I rescind the offer. I'm just not concerned. He's shown his colors. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Marshall Summers is here. Very excited about this show tonight. So you stay right there. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. You can follow me on Twitter at jchurchradio. It's Fade to Black on KGRA The Planet and the Game Changer Network. I'll be right back with our guest, Marshall Summers. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Natural Health Solutions with Chris and Ronnie.
Hey, Ronnie, how you doing?
Great, Chris.
Now, you're the CEO of GetTheTea.com, right?
Yes, I am.
What is GetTheTea.com? I mean, is this tea you buy in a store?
Well, no, it's not. Life Change Tea is just that, life-changing. Life Change Tea is an herbal tea that gently cleanses your body from intruders.
What do you mean by intruders?
Well, intruders are toxins, chemicals, GMOs, heavy metals, and more. They're in our food, in our water, in our air we breathe.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously.
And Life Change Tea will help you with removing these, as you say, intruders?
That's right, Chris.
Are there side effects with this tea?
Well, you might lose a little weight. When you clean your colon, you lose weight, you feel better, and you have more energy.
Wow. Ronnie, where can people purchase Life Change Tea?
Oh, that's easy. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
Ronnie, I want to thank you for being on the show. People, don't forget, GetTheTea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Marshall Summers. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by Life Change Tea. Starting with their super strength tea, everybody here, the Fade to Black team, friends and family, we're all on the Life Change Tea program. Just go to the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Use the promo code FADER. You're going to get yourself free shipping. Okay, Marshall Summers. He's been immersed in the religious experience for the past 35 years. This has resulted in his receiving a vast body of writings about the nature of human spirituality and humanity's destiny with a larger panorama of intelligent life in the universe. These writings encompassed the teaching in the new message, contain a theological framework that accounts for life and the presence of God in the greater community, the vast expanse of space and time that we know to be our universe. The cosmology that he has been receiving contains many messages, and one of which is that humanity is emerging into a greater community of intelligent life, and for this we must prepare. Inherent in this message is the understanding that humanity is not alone in the universe or even alone within our own world, and that within this greater community, humanity will have friends, competitors, and adversaries. Tonight we're going to be talking about disclosure, alien contact, climate change, and, of course, religion, and much, much more. I would like to welcome to Fade to Black for the first time, Marshall Summers. Marshall, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. Good to be with you.
It's pretty exciting times, my friend.
Yes, it is. There's a lot happening in the world, and we're going through a real change and set of changes on many different levels.
You need to turn me down in the background. Whatever that is, that's a bad echo coming back. The timing of you coming on the show tonight, which is great. It's called synchronicity, right? You never ignore those. But I had mentioned in the opening of the show tonight that last month, maybe 2 months ago, last month, I went through this whole Marshall Summers phase, right? And I was just reading your stuff and was listening to some interviews, and I just thought the timing is right. We've got to get Marshall on the show. And so we reached out, and here you are. But what you and I didn't know was that this Saturday was going to break out in mainstream media talking about these subjects that you have been trying to bring out into the public for if decades, right? How do you feel about How do you feel about what went down on Saturday and what continues to go down right now?
Well, it's a wonderful thing to have this information revealed. I always ask myself, why now? Is this simply to be a temperature test for the public to see how many people will respond? Is it a slow leak process by which we're being acclimated to the reality of visitation in our world? Is it something that happened in spite of all of the obstacles that have been set in place? And I really can't answer these questions, and I won't try, but I think it's an important thing because educating people about this is of the utmost importance. This is the greatest event in human history, and people are unaware, and they're unprepared. And we can certainly talk more about this, but I feel that this is the biggest event that we've ever experienced and could hold great promise for us as well as great hazard.
I have watched a bunch of and listened to a bunch of your interviews over the years, and I want to say this. I felt that those that were doing the interviews were out of their wheelhouse, right? They may not have fully understood not only your message and what you're trying to relay, but the bigger question, too, about the question of life in the universe and have we been visited here. And I think that your message was always on point, but did you feel that you struggled with that, trying to get the media out there to understand what the message is? And I still, today, even after all of this with the mainstream media, I think that those hosts out there are still struggling because they don't really understand the information that is right there in front of them.
Yes, there was a struggle, and I still find this at times, but I think things have changed. I think certain windows have been opened now that really weren't open before. We've turned some corners, and maybe they were invisible corners to us, but I think there's a real outreaching now for people to know about the phenomena that we're experiencing. And I have readers in 113 countries, so it's telling me that people around the world, different faiths, cultures, everything, are having some kind of core experience or sharing some kind of experience or awareness that we're not alone in our own world. And that something about the nature of our world, the feeling of being here has really changed. I have a very big message, and sometimes hosts really didn't give me the opportunity to kind of create a panorama, a context for the things that I wanted to say. And that made it very difficult for me to deliver the core messages that I wanted to deliver.
Yeah. You know what I always got, and this is, you're going to enjoy this show tonight for sure, because it'll be the exact opposite. But I think a lot of the hosts wanted to go with the shock value of what? Aliens and religion? What? And they wanted, and that was their angle for it. Completely missing the mark, Marshall.
Yes. Well, our venturing into a greater community of intelligent life, over time we'll have all the religions needing to reassess their fundamental beliefs and assumptions. We're dealing with the God of the whole greater community now. We're not dealing with a God of our one world, a God of our human history, a God of our culture, a God of our passions, a God of our temperament. We're dealing with something just much, much greater. And I think this is an evolutionary step for us, a very big one. But as we've known in history, that religion often is the last to be able to respond to these kinds of great steps, these evolutionary steps. They have a huge amount invested in a certain way of looking at life in the world, and they're only looking at our world. But when we see ourselves within this greater community of life, that begins to open all kinds of doors for us.
Why the silence over these past few days from the religious community? That's the voice here that hasn't stepped up yet. What do you think is going on?
Well, I think they don't know what to say. It's not part of their framework. It's not part of their theology. They can only assume that we're probably not alone in the universe because that's the most reasonable explanation they can give. The theology of our existing religions cannot account for this, except perhaps in vague symbology. But we're at a transition now into becoming a world people, into becoming a people who are attempting to emerge into this larger arena of life as a free and sovereign race. And it's a very great challenge to do that. We have obstacles from within, we have obstacles from without. And the outcome is uncertain yet. I was asked recently in a show that given all the adversity facing us, don't you get discouraged? Don't you just want to give up? It seems like almost the mission impossible. And I said to the host, we do this anyway. Even if the odds are completely against us, we do this anyway.
All right, what's the alternative, right?
Well, absolutely. And anything that has ever really happened in the world of any real significance has always had to face almost insurmountable odds. And so I feel that we have a chance. We have a real chance now. Before the internet becomes completely shut down, before world communication becomes completely shut down, we have a chance. I'm sure that's why you're the host that you are. We have a chance. This is our opportunity. This is our opportunity to bring something to people that they're reaching for but cannot get from their religions, cannot get from their government, cannot get from culture and society. There's a lot of people, I think, in the world today who have a real, what I call a greater community history to them. Somehow they have an innate connection to life in the universe.
Right.
They have an innate interest in it, a pull, a draw. They could end up being astronomers. They could end up being ufologists. They could end up being just natural stargazers. But there's many people in the world today, I feel, and I'm seeing from the response, that have this natural desire to know, this need to know. But who can answer their questions? Really, who can point a way, except in programs such as your program?
Right.
The media is pretty closed down to this. The education is not happening on any kind of large or visible scale. But when I hear about secret groups in China studying the alien presence or UFOs and other places too you wouldn't expect, Islamic countries, for example, then it's telling me that there is a natural time. This is the time for this. But this time won't last forever. It's like a window. It's like a launch window. The opportunities begin to line up and things begin to happen. And this is our time.
When did you start to establish this framework? Did you always have that question as a child, as a young man looking up to the stars, like, we all did, right? Was it that, because you have the religious training and education too as well, and they don't normally parallel themselves. So for you, how did this come about?
Well, until this process of revelation began for me, I really wasn't looking at the life in the universe question. I was looking more at the environmental problems of the world. I was looking at the problems of religion, which were just not answering these innate needs within myself, because somehow we're entering into something very different now. This is a non-human universe that we're emerging into. And we're not emerging because of our journeys into space, but because of the presence of those who are with us.
Right.
Present in our world. So I began then to really be prepared to look at what I call the whole greater community issue and reality as part of the revelation that I have been experiencing beginning in 1981.
What happened in 81?
In 1981, I had an epiphany. A great presence came over me and just sort of shattered my life by the sheer force of it. It was gracious, but so powerful. And after this happened, I looked at my life and I just knew that I was going to have to change everything. So I wandered for 9 months. I gave up my students. I gave up my programs I was teaching at that time. I left my relationships and I wandered for 9 months. And it ended up in the desert of the American Southwest, and this presence came again, not quite so forcibly, and told me to return to the city and begin to record. That was all it said.
Right.
No explanation, but I innately knew what this meant. This meant that I had something to receive that had to be received, and that would have been the January of 1982. And that was the very beginning of this. But interestingly, this greater community part of this whole message began to be given to me at the beginning. And the orientation to that, it was like I had to get out of my human-only reality and begin to think about our destiny in a universe full of intelligent life, of which we know nothing about.
Was it religious? Was that communication religious, or were you able to identify how and what, where it was coming from?
Well, the experience of this divine presence, which was so powerful, was definitely a religious experience for me.
Right.
But I was not thinking about religion at that time.
Right.
I couldn't see in religion the answers to the questions that were beginning to emerge for me. I was beginning to wonder where we are really going.
We all go through that struggle. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. Yes. Yes.
But yeah, we all go through that. And especially when I look back to 1981, 82, a strange time for the country. But I also went through a few epiphanies too as well that involved religion and UFOs. It was kind of but I was only 21 at the time, and I think we all go through that. Yes. But there's a couple of direct questions that I want to ask you about. One of them is this: I often, in jest, but I actually really mean what I'm about to say. You hear the comments over and over about, well, why doesn't ET just land that flying saucer on the White House lawn? If we all had a nickel for every time we've heard that statement. But I often imagine, Marshall, if it lands and the stairs, descend, and out from the bottom of the saucer steps down, and it's Jesus, right? It's just, and it's just like, and he's standing there going, "Okay, man, I'm back. What's up, everybody?" And wouldn't that be, because if we look at the universe as a whole, we're talking about something all-encompassing of everything, right? So why I don't put that out of the realm of possibility here, and I don't push the religious card, but I would not be surprised if that actually happened. What do you think about that thought?
Well, that's interesting you bring that up, because there's a part of the revelation called the dangerous second coming. Mm-hmm. Where someone who is in the persona of Jesus returns, claiming to be Jesus, appearing like our normal images of Jesus, but really is part of the intervention, the alien intervention.
Right.
And that we are so conditioned to be unquestioning about certain things that could work. In fact, the intervention can present holographic images of our saviors and our saints at the foot of our bed and command us to do certain things. I mean, it makes you wonder how many future terrorists had the image of Muhammad appear holographically in their room and direct them to jihad. Mm-hmm. See, this is the skill of those who are visiting our world. They are not a military force. They are not large in number, but they have great skills in affecting our thinking, our feelings, emotions, in projecting things into our minds that we respond to in predictable ways. They can speak to our religious beliefs in ways that will undermine us. This is how things work out there. You know, we're not living in a Star Wars universe. We're living in a universe where races have evolved beyond outright conflict and use more subtle means of persuasion and deception to exert their influence upon one another and now upon our home world of Earth.
Do you think that's what is part of what went down this weekend?
You know, that's a good question. I think there's something very genuine that prompted this. Now, other people may read it differently. I was very glad to see it. Of course, I copied it and sent it out to many, many people. I think anything that can educate about the reality of the visitation is beneficial, as long as no interpretation is added onto it. See, it's the interpretation that fools people. The many people who have had sightings all over the world, most of whom are probably too afraid to come forth and speak about it, they know they saw something. They don't really even need to be told what it was. They know it wasn't us. But the problem with religion is religion conditions people to see things based on faith rather than on observation and clear thinking. Religion tends to become delusional in this way, particularly amongst uneducated people, but educated people as well.
Sure.
I think the religious viewpoint is very, very skewed, and one has to be willing to set aside their beliefs, at least temporarily, to see something clearly like this. Because the visitation in the world today is not a fulfillment of our religious prophecies, beliefs, or expectations. It is an act of nature.
How so?
And we can talk about that.
Yeah. How so? How so?
Because in nature, competition is a fundamental element of nature. This is a natural event in that light. The universe is also part of nature. The evolution of life is part of nature. Competition in life is nature. So I think before we assign other kinds of meanings to those who are present in our world, we have to look at this at that fundamental level. Competition means that other races want what we have. We are degrading the world so rapidly, a world of immense value, a world that is rare in a universe of barren planets, that naturally others will seek to gain an opportunity to take it from us, in this case, without the use of force.
One of the things, Marshall, that I just brought up the Vatican, but also all of the world's religions right now are strangely silent. But one of the things that we have been told inside and outside of the UFO community is that disclosure happens, we have anarchy, we have pandemonium, the economy collapses, borders collapse, and religion collapses, that they won't know what to do with themselves. Well, okay, so we haven't heard from the Vatican. We haven't heard from Saudi Arabia. We haven't heard from Israel. We haven't heard from anybody right now. But also the religious of the world haven't freaked out. I don't see, tires being burned in the streets and churches burned and mosques burned. I haven't seen any of that. And that is surprising to me. I'm happy about it. But is there this, it's like, is it non-interest? Shouldn't there be a little bit more shock value and questions put on the table?
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, the Vatican has two observatories, one in Tucson and one in Italy. I mean, they want to keep up with this. They don't want to become irrelevant. They don't want to become a relic of the past. So they're taking a very proactive approach. Other religious bodies, it's really hard to tell. And if they are looking at this, they're not talking about it. Because if you begin to talk about this, it immediately puts your religious context into question. How relevant is my religion to life beyond this world? Because life beyond this world is life. We live in the greater community. We've always lived in the greater community. It's been the context for our existence the whole way. But when that becomes a conscious thing, now we begin to kind of shake the foundation of our understanding, which I think is extremely beneficial if it can be presented, in a very clear and compassionate manner. But for many people whose whole life is based on their faith tradition, their faith understanding, this is like a revolution in thinking. This is like an earthquake underneath their feet. And so they don't go there.
Because of their comfort zone? Because it upsets their world paradigm and their religious paradigm?
It's the world paradigm. It's their identity. I mean, religion is about identity.
But
religion is about other things. I don't want to say that as a total definition.
No, I understand.
But religion becomes identity. And identity is something people fight for, guard, unknowingly, irrationally. Identity. I think the people who are going to break the ground here are these people that I call greater community people who have this natural need to know, this natural inclination to be connected to life in the universe, as if they've come from there, or they have some kind of association there that's innate to who they are being in the world at this time. And there's a spiritual perspective about that I think could be valuable for us to understand. I certainly am considering it. And that is that, the people who are in the world today have come into the world each with a purpose to be in the world at this time under these circumstances. It's a sense of innate purpose, and it also implies that each of us has a destiny here. It is about where the world is and where it's going, because we are at the greatest turning point in history right now. What happens in the next 20 or 30 years will determine the outcome for everyone. We're living in a time frame of just immense consequence. And I think that falls into two big categories. One is the consequences of how we've changed the world and its climate. And the second is our encounter with forces from this greater community of life.
I don't think it's 20 to 30 years. I think it's more like 20 to 30 hours, Marshall. These are critical. These are critical times. We need to take a break right here. So let's do just that. Our guest tonight is Marshall Summers. Now we're going to continue this discussion on disclosure and alien contact, and of course, climate change, our Earth, humans, human beings, humanity, and religion, and much more. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. More with Marshall Summers after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas. Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Julian, you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go back, Lee Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Marshall Summers. This portion of the broadcast is proudly brought to you by River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Just go to the River Moon Coffee banners over on the website. Use the promo code F2BBLEND, and you will get 15% off of your order. Great gift for the holiday season. Now, Marshall, check this out. I have gatherings that we do with intellectuals, both dinner parties and then, conferences, and we're out across the country. Mm-hmm. And we get together and we sit around and we have those conversations like a Paris cafe in 1930, right? Drinking coffee and getting all intellectual and philosophical. And so I'm talking about researchers, authors, contactees, experiencers, and so forth. And we love talking about UFOs. That's what we do. But it inevitably, the conversation will switch to religion. And none of us are experts here, right? But we always want to ask the bigger questions. And one of those questions is this: is ET experiencing religion like we do here? Do they have the same God? Did they go through, the Son of Jesus, the cross? Did they go through the same things here on Earth across the universe? And is it that universal? Mm-hmm. You're on the show. I have to ask you that question.
Oh, this is a good question. And those visiting our world, if they are religious, it's something very foreign to anything that we know. But the important thing that I'm really interested in, very important to me, is the understanding of who God is. Because if God is the source of all sentient life in the universe, the physical universe, in this galaxy, other galaxies, other dimensions, and in timeless reality beyond the physical realm altogether, we're talking about a God of such immense proportions, something the ancients could never even think of or conceive of. And that's why God was portrayed with human qualities, human emotions, human motivations, and so forth. Now we're facing a God of the entire universe. They're God too. that is their God too.
It has to be that way, right? It has to be
that way.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that all races are religion. In fact, the New Message tells us that most of the big technological races are very secular in nature. That they try to make the governments of these worlds godlike, or the focus of devotion solely, because religion can definitely compete with secular powers, as has been the case in the history of our world. But the God part of this is part of the reason that people cannot seem to grasp what we're talking about when we talk about life in the universe. It's almost like they get stopped short because they cannot understand how that would blend with their notion or belief about God. It's a huge impediment. And I think religion ultimately is about something bigger than our theologies. It's much bigger than our belief systems, bigger than our traditions. It has to do with an innate intelligence that lives within us. That is our God connection. In the New Message, this is called knowledge. It's referring to our ability to have profound knowing and insight. Beyond time and space, beyond any kind of rational process that we may feel is necessary to have understanding, we're able to have deeper understanding in a very innate and natural way. And I think this deeper understanding plays a critical role in our ability to understand the alien presence that's in the world today, as well as every other aspect of our life here on Earth. I mean, we are living now at a time when things are breaking down. Some of these things need to break down. Some of them tragically break down. But our belief about God is breaking down. And what's breaking it down is our emergence into this universe full of intelligent life. Because it is a reality that over time will become so irrefutable, it will become so ridiculous to deny it. And even rational people who have never even thought about this, I've heard them say to me, I know there's got to be other races out there. It's impossible that we're the only ones. And now we have science finding, terrestrial planets
daily.
There was an article in the major newspapers today about bacteria found that's 3.5 billion years old that could exist in other worlds. It's not oxygen based. So we have the elements of life, and this was the National Academy of Sciences that came out with this, that declared that life in the universe must be abundant. If we can have bacteria, this bacteria is so tiny, and it's just amazingly tiny, but it's 350 billion years old. At a time when nothing else could live on Earth, a completely hostile environment. And so they spoke, as their concluding statement in this article, that this must mean that life is abundant in the universe. Because from this elemental life comes the evolution of all life.
Do you have that number right, though?
The universe.
Yeah, let me jump in, yes. Marshall. The 350 billion years old, the universe is 14.5 billion years old.
Mm-hmm.
So having a bacteria that's 300, maybe the number's wrong, but still that's an extraordinary thing to find, because just recently, also 2 weeks ago, they found bacteria growing on the outside of the International Space Station.
That's interesting.
Yeah, how did it get? And you know what? This is the other crazy part.
How did it get there? Right, exactly.
And they brought it.
We don't even realize we're living in a biozone that is so immense that it's totally confounding to our understanding. And so I think the significance here, though, is that life was existing in conditions that we never thought life could exist in.
That's right.
And so the age is significant within our world's, the context of our world's assumed history. Certainly, the New Message says that space travel is happening before humanity even existed.
Of course.
And that is in itself, see, every step a person takes in this direction is mind-blowing. It takes them outside their normal range of awareness, their normal range of understanding. And Many people just don't have the courage to go there. But for those who do, it becomes very rich, but also very confounding, because the answers are not immediate. You know, you have to live with this, and I know you must know what I'm saying here. You have to live with these unanswered questions. And if you'll do that, it will take you somewhere you could not go before.
I wanted to ask you this, and certainly with the new message as well. When we look back to 2,000 years ago, let's a nice round number. Let's go to 0. And the text and the dogma, if you will, from back then was that all of the knowledge, everything came from up there. Right? God came from up there. Angels are coming down from up there. We have information. We have that, God said, right? God said, do this. God said, do not do. Could all of that have been of an ET origin? And if we interpreted all of that, certainly it would make everything make sense pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Well, the new message says we only had very limited visitations in the world in ancient times because, and for very specific purposes. One of the limiting factors was the biological hazard of our world that races who live in sterile environments could not tolerate. When you think of the number of biological agents that exist in our world, which exceeds any number that we can give to it, this is a very big factor, by the way, in how the new message describes the interaction of worlds in the universe. The problem of contamination is huge. It's immense. And that we should never think that this is something that technology alone can completely overcome. But I want to emphasize, in my view, aliens are not the source of religion in our world. That comes from a higher power. We should be very careful here. This is one of the problems of level confusion, is assuming that everything operates together on one plane and through a natural association. The heavenly reality is completely different than the physical reality.
How so?
So messages that have come to us that have been the source or the stimulus for the great traditions and for all other kinds of religious development and evolution is really coming from a place far beyond the physical plane.
I want to say how so, though, because if everything is understanding, and I'm talking about not only us, but everything else that is out there, and we all get it, then why would there be an imbalance? Why don't we have the same information as the rest of the universe? Why are we held back and constantly asking these very important questions?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because as above, so below. What is holding us back is what holds all races in the universe back. Conflict, evolution, adaptation, survival, competition. I mean, we're living, physical universe is a difficult place to live in. And gaining advanced technology doesn't make it easier. In fact, it can make it far more difficult. It makes it easier in some ways. It solves some basic survival problems, but it also sets up other kinds of problems that could be far more difficult to deal with. And we're seeing that in the world today. We don't know how to deal with our own pollution. We don't know how to stop contaminating the world, even though we all benefit from the advantages in science and technology that we experience every day. But our understanding is something that has levels, and religion, in a pure sense, has to do with knowledge, in my view, has to do with knowledge that exists deep within sentient beings. What do I mean by a sentient being? A sentient being is someone who has an understanding of the future and the past and a reference point beyond the physical. To be distinguished from just a very, very clever or intelligent animal, we are referenced beyond the physical plane. And this deeper knowledge that I hope we have time to talk to as we go along is our connection to life beyond the physical plane. Well, and that exists in all sentient life as a potential, but not as a reality. I mean, look at our own world. How many people are actively engaged with this deeper intelligence that lives within them, which holds the promise of who they are, what they need to do in life? It's the God connection. Because there's a lot of believers in religion, there's a lot of pundits of religion, but who is really having the core experience, you know? So the potential for this is there for everyone, even across the universe. But the manifestation of it seems to be very rare, as it is within our own world.
Why do we... okay, I've got two statements here. First, or questions. One, why do we still build guns? Why do we still kill each other? Does E.T. kill each other, right? Okay, so we're going to address that in a second. But the other point that I think we're at here, where we're so frustrated with being alone with ourselves on this planet, it's just like, Marshall, if you and I were locked in a room for 30 years and right, one of us is going to die. One of us is going to kill the other, no matter how friendly we started out, right?
Yes, yes.
And that's where we are on this planet. And probably one of the things that would end a lot of frustration that is built up is that if we got off this thing, you know, and had a common goal and just, you know, blew this popsicle stand, and we would probably stop building those guns. So let's go back to let's address all of these important issues. Why do we still build guns? Why do we still kill each other? And is E.T. doing the same thing?
Well, to the answer to the first question, it's how we've always survived. Competition. Go back to the competition problem. The tribe in the next valley over has a much better hunting grounds. We have very poor hunting grounds. There's going to be competition for those resources. I mean, this is how humanity through the ages, from a very prolonged primitive state, even up to the present time, has tried to survive. We almost don't know a better way, even though there is a better way. Jesus spoke of the better way. Buddha spoke of the better way. I mean, the better way is not something that hasn't existed. It's just that we keep relying upon a very low part of our intelligence to be able to determine what we have to do. We still think that violence and destruction really works. But even in our current world, a world of declining resources now, I mean, destroying a city means it's never going to get rebuilt. See, we can't destroy like we did so wantonly before, because the earth is not going to provide the resources that can make that really possible. The wealth is declining in our world. The wealth is declining. So we're entering, even as we begin to face this larger panorama of life, on our own planet, we are hitting the limits that are going to require us to function differently, or we will destroy ourselves. And one of the great challenges and one of the great risks I think we're facing right now, living in a declining world, a growing population in the world drinking from a slowly shrinking well, is that we will fight endlessly over who has access to the remaining resources. This is a threat of warfare on a level never even seen before in this world. And this is a real risk. I don't want to downplay this. We are at a time of great risk and opportunity, okay? And the opportunity is really important, but so are the risks. This is why I feel that if we can recognize and prepare for our encounter with life in the universe, which is our destiny, it is our destiny. This is our time. It was always meant to happen, could have been foreseen even long ago. Now we are there. If this can happen, it's the only thing that can bring an end to human conflict, even religious conflict, because we now become humans in this world being challenged by other races for dominance in our world. I can't think of anything else that holds a greater promise for uniting the human family and preventing us from going down that dreadful path of gradual self-destruction, fighting over the remaining resources of the world. I can't think of anything else that could make that happen.
Does ET
We're never going to agree theologically. We're never going to agree politically. We're never going to agree about the best economic or political system. We're never going to agree about music or anything else. But if we are all in the same boat facing the same challenge, that could, over time, not immediately, over time, begin to turn the tide away from self-destruction.
Do we have a reason to fear ET?
Absolutely.
How so?
Does the Native Americans of 300 years ago have a reason to fear the tall ships that just came over the horizon?
Well, I can answer that.
Absolutely.
But so
we are now the native peoples of the world facing intervention from races that we do not understand. We are reliving what has happened in the world countless times. We have to take that position as a starting point, or we are not using our native intelligence correctly. This is what history has taught us. This is what life has taught us. This is what nature has taught us. No race is coming here to help us. They are coming here for their own purposes. Any race that seeks to interfere with human affairs is doing this for their own reasons and own purpose.
I like to say
intervention has taught us. We have to begin to consider this.
I have often said, Marshall, that I walk around with flowers hanging out of my pockets, right? I just want everything to take the right path, right? That's the way I live my life. And I would assume that E.T. has gone through the BS that we have gone through on this planet and has evolved to the point where they are a kinder, gentler race of beings. But then the other point that makes me feel good about having that frame of mind, that mindset, is that if they really wanted this planet, they could have come and taken it, and they haven't yet.
But see, I hear this argument a lot, and I want to respond to that because I think it's a very reasonable argument. They don't want to take the planet by force because they would destroy the environmental value of the planet, and they need us as a workforce. They cannot breathe our atmosphere. They cannot live here. The biological hazard is too great, and they can't breathe our atmosphere. So they need us. This is why the attempt to persuade and generate human acquiescence is so powerful in the work of the intervention in the world today. It's the resource of the world we want, and we are part of that resource. We're the labor. If you think of the interventions in the past, the colonial powers intervening in native races, they needed the people of those races to work for them.
That's right.
Okay. They wanted, one of the first things that they wanted to do was displace their leaders' belief in their own leaders, the native races' belief in their own leaders and their own religion. The two powers of authority in the lives of native peoples, the oncoming colonials wanted to remove that and shift it to themselves. This is exactly what the intervention is doing in religious terms in the world today. By confusing extraterrestrials with angels, by tuning into or speaking to our religious, unquestioned religious beliefs that anything that happens to us must be an act of God, must be something that is meant to happen. It's here for our good. We need to be positive. We need to be accepting. Look what happened to the native peoples who were accepting. Okay? I mean, as a religious man, it's tough for me to be this hardcore. But I think living in the real world and seeing what history has taught us, what has happened to the native peoples of the world, I have to take this position, because if we don't take this position, if we make a mistake here, we're done. That's it. You can forget about human corruption. You can forget about conspiracy theories. Right. You can forget about the corrupt and corruption and malfeasance in government. We are facing the one thing that can overcome us, and it can do it without the use of force.
Do you think that there is those on this planet that would sell us out like that?
Absolutely. I mean, most politicians are opportunists, right? This is why the deep government never doesn't have anything to do with them. They'll go for the opportunity. Oh, this is an opportunity. And of course, the intervention persuades people on the basis of, I'll give you power, I'll give you technology, I'll even give you spiritual fulfillment. We'll give you whatever you think you want and can't have. We'll give it to you. We have it. We have no war. I mean, think about this. We're just such easy game when we make these kinds of assumptions, and we do it because we feel better about it. We feel good about it. To think that we are facing other races who are like us, they don't look like us, but are motivated by the same things that motivate us, but are more powerful than we are, that terrifies people.
I look back to, and I run a piece of it in the intro of our show. I look back to Ronald Reagan's famous run of speeches that he did.
Yes, that's right.
And he spoke about exactly this. Now we're going to head towards a break here in 3 minutes. So I'll give you a chance to respond, and then we'll pick it up on the backside. But did he know something?
Oh, I'm sure he did. This is something that is so important that we cannot make a mistake. I think that if we look at history, if we look at nature, if we look at what it would be like to have an intruder in your home who comes and goes at will, takes whatever they want, changes your abode, your home, even begins to change you without explanation, without invitation, and you can only hope they're there for a good purpose. Now, I think most people would want to reclaim their own space and get that intruder out of their house. We have an intruder in our house doing all the things I just mentioned. Their behavior is what gives it away. It's not that I'm a fear-mongering negative person like I've been accused of often. It is their behavior that gives them away. Regardless of what they promise, what we want them to be, we want to feel good about this. I think that if we're being really honest, this is scary as hell.
Right.
We got a real problem. And this is not so much about government. I mean, government's its own problem, but this is a much bigger problem. The races in the world today have much greater powers of persuasion than our elected officials do. That's what they rely upon. This is their power. It is not weapons. We have to get out of this weapon-oriented mentality. That's what makes things work. In the universe, they've had to outgrow this to survive.
We've got to take a break.
Our local universe, as it's been revealed in the new message, Life is Like in Our Local Universe, war has been suppressed.
We've got to take a break.
Great.
Hold on, Marshall. We got to take a break right here. So, let's go ahead and do that. But also, what is telling with that statement right there was the pilots were asked what kind of weapons they had on their planes, right? Obviously, somebody wanted somebody to shoot somebody down, and it turned out they couldn't even do that if they wanted to. And that's what was brought out in that video. They were defenseless. All right, this is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Marshall Summers. More with Marshall right after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. And last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana Pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Marshall at Marshall Summers. The links are right up there on Twitter. Come join the conversation. The segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by New Pharma. GNU Pharma. Go to the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. You can read about all of the science behind New Pharma. Promo code is F2B. 33% off of your order. Give the gift that keeps on giving in this holiday season. Now, Marshall, continuing on with our conversation, is there even a possibility of any positive interaction with ET? You know, what happened to love and light and all of that stuff?
Well, it's interesting that I think that the thing that we have to be very careful of here, if we're going to be able to see this clearly, if we're going to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear that are innate within us, we have that ability, is we can't want anything from this. We can't want power. We can't want technology. We can't want resolution to our problems. We can't want spiritual fulfillment. We can't want to have our ideology confirmed, our religious belief confirmed. If we can do that, and that's not an easy thing to do for people, I mean, I will be the first to say that, then we have a chance to really see. You know, after 70 years of being aware of craft in our skies, say beginning in 1947, can we step back and see this for what it is? Because there are 4 fundamental questions that we have to bring to the table here. The first is, what is happening? Now, 70 years of very noble UFO research has answered that question admirably. We have enough pieces of this puzzle to see what it's telling us. The next question, though, is, why is it happening? Next question, what does it mean? Fourth question, what do we do? we have to go on beyond the first question. If we keep walking around the first question endlessly, there's always more scraps of evidence, there's always interesting things there, but we have to go on to all four questions. And I've spoken at many different symposia. I've been in the audience of many different symposia around this subject, and I see the emphasis on the first question. But I feel that with each passing day, with each passing year, we are becoming weaker as a race. We are being weakened. We were already weak to begin with in many ways, but we are being weakened by the presence of those who are in our world. You know, the Allies of Humanity briefings, which was given to me much later in my work, given to me as a gift from the divine, basically, as witnesses, as physical beings living in our local universe who actually represent free races, they said, no one should be visiting your world this time. You are not ready for contact. You don't have the species maturity. You don't have the unity. You have no one to represent all the people of the world. You are not ready for contact. No one should be here at this time.
But yet they are.
Yet they are.
With the dynamics of this past Saturday, which I can no longer say apparently show something, it does show something. Whether we're ready or not, that question has been answered.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah, we know they're here, but now we need to take it further. And you can't do that if you're trying to validate your own beliefs.
Right.
I didn't have any beliefs about ufology when I started. I just could say, sure, we can't be the only race in the universe. Sure, there must be all kinds of races out there. But I didn't have any view. I didn't have any set opinions. I didn't have any professional investment. I came to this like, show me. I don't know. But when I began to respond to the revelation and begin to read what people were experiencing, the sightings, later on the abductions, boy, I tell you, I got a bad feeling from this from the very beginning. I said, no friend would do this. Now, I want to back up a little bit from your other question because I think there were positive forces here after World War II for a time. And the contactee experiences they had in places like Giant Rock were part of that phenomenon. But something else has displaced all of that. And, you know, the important thing I think here is any friend of humanity, any friend of humanity would know that we cannot tell friend from foe. So they would certainly withdraw in the face of other forces who are here to take advantage of our situation. This creates an unambiguous environment. Because many people say, oh yeah, they're probably bad ETs, but they're also good ETs. There has to be good ETs. Well, that's just because that's what they want. That's what they need. But, you know, we don't have the criteria to tell friend from foe, except in terms of the behavior of those who are functioning in the world today. As I said before, their behavior, in my mind, says it all. There are many details we don't know, many details we don't understand, but basically, we have an intruder in our house who's operating without our permission, going against our will. And I've had enough experience with contactees, at least those who have gone through the scary part of recognizing that they're abductees. Their story is very, very telling, very grim. These people have lost control of their lives to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. And they're at the behest of other powers who come when they will, take what they want, and you do whatever to these people that they want to do. Now, that's like saying, you know, raping a woman is a good thing. Good for the woman. Or good for the earth. Because there are real crimes against humanity happening in this phenomenon. So I know people want to make this a good thing because they're not strong enough or willing enough to face what this probably really is, which is an intervention in our world from races who are here to gain dominance in our world. They look at us as reckless, chaotic, destructive,
Well, we are.
And we are.
Hold on.
Give them the right to come and displace us.
Marshall, let me jump in. You mentioned we wouldn't be able to recognize friend from foe. We can't even do that with our neighbors, right? We can't even do that on our own planet. So certainly looking out into the universe. But in that same respect, is ET, there's an infinite amount of ET races out there in our galaxy and in the universe. Mm-hmm. What are they doing with themselves? Are they warring with themselves? Are they getting along? Have they figured out a way to get past this?
Well, I think what's the message given to me is there's evolution at every stage out there. There's primitive races, there's warring races, there's races who've gone beyond the need for war. There are races who are not spiritual, and that's apparently very common. There are races who are deeply spiritual. But to be a free race in the universe requires three things. It requires unity, it requires self-sufficiency, and it requires great discretion. These are the requirements for all races in the universe. This is the revelation from the new message. This is not my idea. I didn't think this up.
Right.
When you begin to think about this, we are breaking all those rules. We're hardly united and at the risk of becoming ever more fractured. In fact, I see the fracturing of nations happening all over the world. Very, very disturbing to me at a time when human unity is of the utmost importance, knowing what I know. We're destroying our self-sufficiency about as fast as we can, which is going to have just immense consequences for us here on Earth. And we're hardly discreet. We're broadcasting out into our local universe all of our conflicts, all of our weaknesses, all of our indulgences, and we appear to be absolutely reckless and ridiculous, probably to many races. But we also are very vulnerable. We're very persuadable. See, this is a huge invitation. It's almost like saying to the universe, "Come and get us." We just can't get our act together down here. But still, there are ethics to contact. And we, over time, this is something I emphasize. I spoke at the MUFON National Conference back in 2006, and I presented on the ethics of contact. And the ethics of contact mean that we are a young race. We're not more sinful than other young races. We're making mistakes that all races probably make to one degree or another. We're not the bad boys in the universe. We're not a threat to the universe. I mean, we're pathetic, but we're not a threat to the universe or to the worlds around us. But that we must establish our own rules of engagement. And why, you would say, well, what difference is that going to make? The new message tells us that the races who are here can only function if we agree that they can be here, because outright conquest is not allowed in this part of our galaxy. We live in a highly developed part of the galaxy where large trading nations and trading associations have replaced war and conflict, and outright conquest is not allowed. So for a race to intervene with a young race like us, it has to at least appear to outside observers that that is tolerated by us. And this is why the intervention seeks to gain our approval, our acquiescence, whenever possible. And if we don't acquiesce, then it tries basically to discourage us or depress us. In other words, you have no way to oppose us. So that's very depressing. So when you see these flyby reports of airline pilots and military pilots, this is a demonstration of power. You think you're good? Look at us. You have no power against us. When in fact, they're very small groups of individuals without military assets. We rule the whole world. They can't breathe our atmosphere, and we have the power to expel them and drive them out if we make that known, if we speak out against their presence here. Now, people are so used to war and conflict as a way of resolving things that they don't see the opportunity here. And we wouldn't see it ourselves if we didn't have this greater perspective. I didn't invent this perspective. I didn't even know about these things. So I know I just said a whole lot, and I'd like you to respond, but I think we're really dealing with something of great importance here.
Your knowledge of UFO history is pretty impressive. So I feel that you do understand historically all of the subjects. But with that knowledge, have you seen something in the sky that you can't explain?
Yes, I have.
Tell me about it.
And I saw it from a very kind of famous locale, which is the Great Sand Dunes of Colorado, where the first animal mutilation was reported. The first known mutilation was reported.
Right.
Yeah, I saw a craft way up high, probably at 40,000 feet. And I could see the sun. It was late in the day, and the sun was shining off the bottom of it. I thought it was just a big airplane. And it went into a cloud and never came out, a small cloud. And I probably watched it for a half an hour and nothing ever came out. It was a clear day otherwise. And it was bright enough for me to see. And I felt pretty strange about that. But I'm sure people are seeing these things all the time. Because one of the weaknesses of the intervention is they make very little effort to hide themselves. The problem is people just aren't looking.
Yeah, I know.
People are downcast. People are self-obsessed. They're not looking up at the sky. You could have all kinds of things happening up there, and a few people would see it, but probably not very many.
Yeah, it's a game changer when you see something like that.
Yes.
And see there, and I'm not in any way trying to sound strange here or sexist, but men, we grow up with the love of machines and mechanics and rockets and planes, and we know every type of car and every type of plane and helicopter. We know what we're looking at. And when you see something that you can't explain, because our thing that we do, Marshall, is we compete in identifying. Oh, no, it's not. It's we know these things. We study these things. And when you see something that you can't explain away, like you did, that's a game changer. That's a game changer.
Yes. Well, you don't forget it, that's for sure. And of course, if you're a person who's been taken against your will, that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. And people who accept that or think that that's beneficial for them, I feel for them, because I think they're really giving them their lives away. There's something very beautiful, and this is part of the spirituality of life in the universe. And I want to go back to talking, if I can spend a moment doing this deeper knowledge that we have, because it's the only part of us that cannot be manipulated. It cannot be interfered with. It cannot be overtaken. The deeper intelligence within us. This makes it the most reliable aspect of our entire being. This is like beneath the surface of our worldly mind, the mind that the world and culture has created, our history and our experience has created. We are surrounded by influences increasingly. We're surrounded by surveillance increasingly. But we have this deeper knowledge within us. This is a thing that will tell us, if we can respond to it, what we're looking at. Not just in terms of something really big like this, but in everyday affairs, in discerning who to be with in a relationship, or whether to accept an opportunity or not, or whether to go to this place or not to go to this place. We've been given this natural inner guidance not only to direct us, but to hold us back from the things that are unhealthy for us, the things that could endanger us, and so forth. That is why I feel that the experience of this knowledge, taking the steps to this knowledge, holds a critical element in our ability to see and know the truth and to be able to respond appropriately.
Right. The other part of this that I find a little bit disturbing is that with the release of this video this past Saturday, it clearly shows something that is not ours. You know, it's not Russian, it's not Chinese, it's not ours. We don't understand it, and it's performing at a pretty extreme. Now, we have been seeing that there has been enough evidence of this going on for decades now on film and video and eyewitness testimony. I've seen these kind of things myself. Why release the video, you know, from the government side out into the public domain to cause, I mean, is it part of disclosure? Is it part of disruption? Are they looking for a reaction from everybody? I don't understand the reason for releasing the video.
Well, those are very good questions. I'm not sure we are in a position to answer them. Clearly, the government knows that they have to deal with this question in some way with the public, because enough of the public now is questioning these things, is looking at these things, is responding to these things, that the government can't just act like it's just not dealing with it or has no understanding of it. So I'm not sure. You know, I'm reticent to go down that road because I think in the end we won't know for sure. But one of the things that seems very important for us, going back to this seeing and knowing what we're looking at, is to go on to these other three questions if we can, because they really hold the key to what's happening. Because what's happening is only a first step. If you don't know why it's happening, what it means, or what you have to do, then you really don't understand what's happening.
That's right.
Okay? It's just it's the entree to something that we have to explore. And one perspective on this that I'd like to present is the most is kind of the most natural and historical. Why do other races, in this case non-human races, why does intervention happen? We know why it happens. It happens because the natives have something those powers want. And all the activities that the intervention is demonstrating, in my mind, is demonstrating those kind of activities. They're things that are very similar. The divide and conquer, for example, or displacing the native people's natural authority, the emphasis on making us increasingly distrust our own leaders and institutions. Well, that creates a vacuum of confidence. Where is that confidence then going to be placed? It gets redirected. I mean, certainly the government is full of all kinds of things to criticize and be concerned about. But if we live confidence in our own kind leading us, that then creates a vacuum of confidence that is filled by others. This is what, in the past, intervening European nations did to establish themselves as the new power, the new authority, the ones to follow and to believe in. So we are dealing now with intervention, I think, that's happening along some classic lines. And unless there was an absolute proof that what they're doing is beneficial for us, and I have never seen it, then we should take the opposite position as our starting point, to be very skeptical, very cautious, which means we can't want anything from this. We don't put ourselves in a position to be seduced by it. We don't insist that it be good for us so we can feel more comfortable. We just have to have the courage to face it, that, you know, we may be the big kid on the block in our own world, but in this universe out there, we're a nobody.
No, we're hillbillies.
We're hillbillies, and we're sitting on a planet, a very rare planet. I know there's lots of planets, but planets like ours, the new revelation says, are very rare and highly valued. So those races in here today are taking a long time to go about intervening in our world, integrating themselves into our lives, gaining our, at least for sufficient numbers of people, gaining our acquiescence or our approval, or at least our tolerance, that they then become part of us. And many people want them to become part of us. Even greater community people want them to, because we're trying to reconnect with the universe. And that's a very natural, valuable inspiration. But we're also living in the real physical universe. where we can't confuse then our higher aspirations with certain levels of reality that we have to deal with. And as the native peoples, we have to see this correctly. We have to have a starting point. And I don't see that. In fact, it's so infrequent in my experience. Certainly you hear it in your show, but the events that I've attended, even spoken at, I'm like the only person who's saying, hey, we need disclosure from the extraterrestrial presence. That's where we need disclosure. I'm the only one questioning this. I'm the only one saying this is not a good thing.
Right.
And it's like I'm raining on other people's parades. They're really getting off on this. They think this is really exciting and fun and interesting. And I'm coming along and saying, hey, people, this is nature again. We're facing competitors in the universe who are very clever. But who are using our weaknesses and our divisions against us.
But Marshall, this has been the fundamental. We've had two fundamental questions since we were able to figure out how to laugh and think. Okay, going back 10,000 years, which is first, what happens after we die? Second, are we alone in the universe? That's it. And if we can get one of those two questions answered, we're halfway there. And that's the way that the world is looking at all of this. I mean, it is, it's a fundamental thing. You're 2 years old, 3 years old, young little baby Marshall running around in your backyard looking up at the stars. You're thinking, what's going on out there?
Yes, that's right.
And that's right. Now, but this is the other part, though. If the contact is established, beyond, the video that we just saw and everything else that's going on. If that contact is established, are we not able for deal making? Because that's what we like to do. We like to cut a deal. Like you said, the better food is across the valley. How do we get that? Right? Okay, so that's what we do. Is there no deal making to be had here? And if there is, certainly ET has already outsmarted us on that front. Right? They know that we're going to try to make a deal. So now we've got this paradox. And that's the thing. I don't know what to do about it. We're going to discuss more of this after the break. But, is there not a way to move forward through this intervention?
I believe there is, and we can certainly talk about that.
Yeah, I think we need solutions. We have the questions. We need the solutions. Yes. So let's take a break right here. Our guest tonight, Marshall Summers. Marshall, I'm just going to let you know, I'm enjoying this conversation, but I expected it. I expected it. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Marshall after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on jimmychurchradio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com. Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Marshall Summers. Great conversation. This segment is proudly brought to you by New Manna. Emergency food storage for you and your family. 25-year shelf life, no MSG, GMO-free, made in America. And every order over $100 gets you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. It certainly does. Promo code Jimmy. Just go over to the links and banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Now, Marshall, we need answers. We need solutions. And one of the things that I've always said about ET, and certainly with things like artificial intelligence and singularity, when we start to get around things that are smarter than us, and we think we are outsmarting someone, they have that answer before we even do something. There is no kill switch. They will have thought about the kill switch before we even invent it. So we do need these solutions. What do we do?
Okay. Well, I think one of the things we need to do is we need to become aware. The awareness, not just for our listeners, because I'm sure your listeners are very aware that we're being visited, but we need to begin to consider the other three questions, and not just from the standpoint of what we want, but from a deeper sense of what we know. And we have to start with reality. This is about reality now. And reality is something that you can apprehend if you can approach it without preference or preconsidered conclusions. We're dealing with something that's a reality that we can determine. This is not a mystery. I've always been asked, well, this is such a mystery. We're never going to understand this. I said, it's ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is nature. I mean, at an elementary level, this is nature. And I want to make one point before we get into the specifics of preparation, is to say that the intervention here today and our emergence into this greater community of intelligent life is about our spirituality. Not because of the visitors, but because of what this can do for us and our world. As I said before, this is the only thing that can unite a diffracted and competing humanity. And we have to enter this greater community with some degree of functional unity, or we're not going to survive there. We're never going to be able to establish and maintain freedom there. It takes a very united race to do this, and that's why I said the three things that are necessary for this are unity, self-sufficiency, and discretion. The preparation has to begin with awareness and education. We need to learn things about the greater community that is not us, that is the greater community itself. And I think I can make a contribution to that through the writings that I've received, the book Life in the Universe, which you can read free online. Just Google Life in the Universe, the reality and spirituality of life in the universe. These books give you an opportunity then to reconsider the realities that exist out there, because there's no greener pastures out there. In fact, after a while, you begin to realize how valuable this planet is and how hard life is out there in the universe. This is a real sea change in how people might begin to respond to the specter of life in the universe. In the book Life in the Universe, the whole first part of it is about the mundane, prosaic realities of our local universe, the things we need to know. And the second part is about the spirituality of life in the universe and how God works in the universe through the power of knowledge within sentient life. And it's very, very clear, but it's very different than how people usually think of these things. So the education has to be really sound, and I think that there may be something here that I think is going to help in that regard.
This is where I believe that you're right. And let me make this statement and then let's move forward. If we encountered, you and I, we're on our starship and we go to another planet that's got life, we would expect, seriously, that everybody on that planet represented that planet. They were one and they were whole. E.T. comes here and they see the exact opposite of that.
That's right.
We are completely foreign to our own selves. We are fighting ourselves. We have different ideologies, which is all great, but we have not figured out a way to all get along. And we would expect that. We would expect that on another planet, wouldn't we? We wouldn't expect.
We would. And the fact that we are so divided makes us a perfect opportunity for a divide and conquer strategy. This is how it works.
Certainly.
This is how, even in the native example from history, different tribes were cast against each other. Or their historic enemies were pitted against each other. And we see this in the world today. I mean, the intervention seeks to increase human conflict in the world, particularly to take the most powerful nations in the world and get them involved in situations that they can't get out of.
We do it constantly, Marshall. We do it with sports.
We can do this on our own,
right?
But there's an incentive to weaken the most powerful nations, to get them in intractable conflicts, to weaken them, to impoverish them. And this is going on increasingly as the intervention has greater influence in our world. I see this. It's not just human error. It's not just human stupidity. There is a purpose behind these kinds of things being stimulated. Who is stimulating our appetite for war? This serves the intervention. As long as they want to pit us against each other, they want us to focus on each other. This is why conspiracy theories that only focus on government serves the intervention, because it's us being obsessed with each other in a very conflicted and adversarial way. And our attention is off the intervention. We're not thinking about them. We need to be thinking about them. We're not thinking about them.
Well, isn't this why disclosure is a good thing then?
I think disclosure is a good thing if it can be sustained. Because, the news is sensational in the moment, and then it goes on to something else and people kind of forget.
What do you think
could be sustained? If this could be a sustained disclosure objectively, like this is just what people saw, this is what people experienced, without commentary trying to define it or make it palatable to human consumption. The pilot saw this. The person on the ground saw that. See, this is the kind of disclosure we need.
What's the next step?
Not somebody explaining the whole thing based upon their theory or philosophy about life.
What would sustain it? What's next?
I don't know what would sustain it. I think disclosure is really the thing that isn't so important. I think we have to educate people this is happening. And we have to talk about knowledge, because knowledge is their ability to see the truth beyond deception. And there's nothing else in our mind that can really do that.
But it hasn't worked in the past, though, Marshall, because
it has worked sufficiently in the past that everything good that has been created in our history has been able to happen. But, there's so much ignorance in the world, and there's so much violence in the world, so much poverty. Think about half of the human population can't even make a contribution to humanity. I'm talking about women now. They're tethered to domestic duties all over the world. How much of the world lives in poverty?
Half.
Staggering.
Half.
Staggering.
Yeah.
All those people are never going to make a contribution to society. This is what's keeping us poor. This is what's keeping us in a state of constant aggravation. So the spiritual connection here is very important, because life in the universe requires us to engage with this knowledge if we have any hope of understanding it and preparing for it.
I have often said, and this is where I conflict in my own mind. I have this conflict, which is this. Half of the world, 3.5 billion people live in garbage dumps. And to those kids, those children, 5, 6, 7 years old, that don't have a hope of an education, let alone a meal the next day, right? What does ET have to do with them? They have no clue about what you and I are talking about right now, which are very important subjects, right? So what about them?
Well, I'm going to answer this in a kind of odd way. It's the people who are free enough, educated enough, who can make the difference. The person who lives in a garbage dump can't do it. They're circumstantially oppressed. They could be religiously oppressed. They could be politically oppressed on top of that. It's the people like you and me and your listeners, most of your listeners, who are free enough, who have the opportunity to become educated, who have the willingness to look into this great and powerful phenomenon that can make the difference. I think getting disclosure from the government is hopeless. I think it's really a waste of time. We're never going to get the whole picture. They're never going to tell us the whole truth. And they're going to tend to condition it to their advantage to whatever degree that they do. Now, when a Air Force pilot, or a Navy pilot in this case, says, I saw these craft, that's good disclosure. But beyond that, the government's not going to show its hand. But we don't need the government to know the truth. We can know the truth. This is the basis of, my whole approach to this. People can know the truth if a certain thing is stimulated within them. And we all experience this. Besides the fact that we do stupid things and are led astray and get seduced into various things, we have this ability to know the truth and to respond to it. This is a thing that's going to need to happen. It's not going to happen with everyone. Listen, the American Revolution was only supported by 25% or 20% of the population.
Right.
And it worked. So it's not like everyone. It's like the people who have a need and who know and can make a difference. They're free enough to make a difference. And we are those people. Okay? All I can give to the person living in the dump is food and shelter and security. That's what those people need. You know, the greater community is not important to them, probably. Their needs are much more elemental and overwhelming. But for us, we have the opportunity to see the big picture. We need to see it clearly. We need to see it without preference, without fear. We can't be looking at it to fulfill ourselves spiritually, even though, as I said before, our emergence into the greater community will be the most powerful spiritual expansion that we have had. But it's not because of the visitors who are here. It's because of what will happen within us in this process of emergence.
And the beautiful thing is there is no going back now. There isn't.
Oh, no.
We've taken a huge step forward. That cannot be taken away from us. You know what I mean? There's no taking a step back now. We're only going to move forward. But the other part of this is if we can't do it, if we're not, I want to say this sounding positive and not negative, but we may not be smart enough, right, to run the end around pattern here. We may not be able to put a play in play. But the alternative is what, though? Do we arm ourselves? We wouldn't have the technology to. So, I mean, I'm not so sure, how to move forward if there is a big plan to come in and take this planet and use us as slaves. If you know what I mean, I'm speaking in metaphors.
I do know what you mean. I think this is a very critical question. The fact is, we're not dealing with military forces here.
Right.
That is not their strength. That is not their power. And they are constrained by certain rules of engagement that exist in our local universe, which is something no one on Earth could ever know about, but is revealed through this new message. And it's revealed in such a way because we need to know the limits of the power of those who are in our world, what restrains them, what encourages them. We actually have the upper hand here. We just do not exercise that authority.
How so?
Because we have the eyes to see, we can notice everything they're doing in the world, and we can speak out against it. And that in itself would begin to thwart the interventions occurring in the world today. And in the process, we would gain greater unity, cooperation, all the things that we really need that can only happen under circumstances like this. We're never going to unite because we should. We're going to unite because we have to. And our emergence in the greater community is going to make us do this or break us. This is the power of our times. Things that are important just don't happen because somebody just wants it to happen. They happen because they must. It's that word must. A lot of people don't like that word. They think it's too forceful. But that is the power of our time. We must do certain things. And it's going to start with individuals. It's not going to start with governments and leaders. It's going to start with the people. And we are the people. And this is where this is all really happening. This is where the truth is emerging and can emerge and become strong. When people are most noble is when they're dealing with a crisis.
Right.
The house is on fire, so everybody goes there to try to help, do whatever they can, even put their own lives at risk to save the people who are endangered. That's when we are at our best. We need something like this to be at our best, because otherwise we all sink and submerge into a kind of a listless state, or we become obsessed with our needs and our problems and ourselves. It's the bigger need that draws us out of that and into the greatness that we carry. And this greatness that we carry has to do with this knowledge that I speak of. And it's activated by the very kinds of circumstances that we're having to face, which seems so overwhelming, but in essence hold the real key to our redemption. We are going to have to earn our freedom in the universe. No one's going to come and give it to us. We just can't have it because we're nice or because we expect it. We're going to have to earn it, like we always have had to earn it to whatever degree we've ever been able to have it. And now we're talking about the whole planet having to earn it. Not everybody, but enough people of conscience who are dedicated to doing this.
Earn what, though, Marshall? Respect?
Establish our own rules of engagement, which means you can't come here without our permission. And if you do, we will oppose you with all the force that we have.
Right.
That's overwhelming force, considering the presence of those in our world today.
A mental...
We have overwhelming force.
Right.
We have overwhelming force.
Okay, so let me jump in here so I'm understanding, because I'm with you on this, if I'm understanding you correctly, which is this. Our body, you get a sliver in your body, it gets rejected, right? Eventually, it gets expelled. Are you suggesting that this planet, if we all come together and not want this, that is more powerful than anything else, and if we just don't want ET here, that would be strong enough, that would be the overwhelming force?
I think I would cast it slightly differently. We don't want intervention. When we're ready, would we have enough unity, enough strength, enough education about life in the universe, then we could be ready for real visitation. We are not ready, but we cannot have intervention. We will welcome people into our house, but we have to welcome them on our terms.
Right.
It cannot be intervention.
Why is it that, and we're winding down here, and I want to thank you before we do run out of time. This has been an absolutely amazing conversation. Is there, and I want to sound positive here. I don't want to sound negative, but to allow that to happen, to go to that next step of I'm not talking, moving past intervention and acceptance into the universe. Is it how do I want to say this? I want to say this right. Do we have to all here on this planet, do we have to all be on the same page? I guess that's the best way to put it. How do we get to that without everything else that comes in with the negative aspect of it? I don't know how we can have it both ways. How we can get everybody on this planet to understand it, because it hasn't worked in the past. It's all been on faith in the past. It's all been on faith without having the nuts and bolts side of this in front of it, because that's what we ask for.
Yes. First of all, we don't need everyone on the planet to be involved in this, because most people are way too oppressed by poverty and degradation to even have a chance at it. It's going to be up to the people, again, like I said, who have the awareness and the focus to sound this alarm. We're sounding an alarm now. I'm sounding an alarm. Wherever I go, I'm giving the dilemma, the hazard, and the great opportunity, because I think that our emergence into the greater community is destiny, and it will be a tremendous upgrade for humanity. But upgrades do not happen in and of themselves. They happen as a result of us having to do things we've never done before. And adapting to life in the universe is something we have never done before. Learning how to deal with visitation is something we've never done before. We have to learn how to do things we've never done before, because that's what enables survival to continue. We don't just arrive at a comfortable place and everything from then on is easy. No, we keep having to deal with problems of survival, and competition is one of those problems. And we are facing now competition. So I think this is a real call to service for people. I think it's a call to integrity. I think it's a call to a spiritual awakening, because spiritual awakening isn't about bliss and glory. It's about service in the world, simple service, doing something that really needs to be done. That, in my view, is what spirituality leads to and what it ultimately means here on earth. And we have a time now when the needs are so great. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. We are all here to make a difference. We're not here just to be comfortable and happy and checked out. We are here to make a real difference. And we need something now that can do this for all the nations of the world who are facing the same outcome should the intervention continue in its current pathway.
How do we do that without fear, though? Because that's all we seem to understand.
Don't worry about love and fear. Do what is true. Listen, fear, do you think the Dalai Lama is not afraid of what's happened to the people of Tibet? I mean, fear can be used purposefully in this situation. If we try to not be fearful at the expense of seeing clearly, then we're kind of betraying ourselves.
Right.
We're going to be afraid. This will look overwhelming. Many people just give up. They just can't handle it. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be handled, shouldn't be addressed. That's why you're doing what you're doing. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I mean, we're doing this because it has to happen. And we're doing it out of a deep love for humanity and this world, and for a deep love of freedom, because in the end, it's all about freedom. And freedom is rare in the universe, from what the new message tells us. That's not how most races evolve. That's not where they usually end up. So to be a free race in the universe is a very remarkable achievement, but it has to be earned, and it will be challenged. And that is our challenge, and that is our opportunity in this kind of great dilemma for humanity. Is the great opportunity.
We are in exciting times, Marshall. There's no question about
Absolutely.
that. Now, what's the best way, as we're here at the end here, and I wish we can keep going. We'll do this again next month and continue this on another show. But what's the best way for everybody? We have alliesofhumanity.org. Your writings, your videos. Where's the best place to go and access all of this?
Well, the Allies of Humanity briefings are a beautiful place to begin. They're all free online. All 3 sets of them are free online. At newmessage.org, which is our big website, we have the new book that just came out, Life in the Universe, The Greater Community, Contact with Life in the Universe. That can be read free online. Most of my work is free online because I'm trying to reach a world audience. Anyone who has a phone or a computer has a chance to go read these things. We're also doing tremendous translation work. We have translations in 27 languages currently. We have 51 translators working, contributing their time to doing this important activity. We're doing what we can to bring this information to people, to give them a chance to experience it. I think the New Message website, anything dealing with worldwide community, the worldwide community is a new thing that we've started where people all over the world can talk to each other. We have a free school where, I present teachings to people at no charge. And we have people from many countries involved with that. So we're trying to do whatever work we can to bring this to as many people as we can. And we know it's a huge thing to face. This is a hard thing to face. It will challenge many of our ideas, but it is so important. And for many people, this is what they've been looking for.
I want to thank you for coming on tonight. I can't wait to bring you back on. Are you going to, I've got 30 seconds, are you going to be speaking anywhere out publicly?
No, I'm just doing broadcasting and interviews at this time.
Well, there you go. Well, you've got a new outlet here on Fade to Black for sure, Marshall. Thank you so much.
I appreciate your being a host for me tonight. I really do.
Absolutely great conversation, and we'll do it again here very soon. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks.
Marshall Summers, everybody. Great conversation. Now, all of the links for Marshall are over at jimmychurchradio.com. Alliesofhumanity.org is right there. Click on it. Go check it out. Everything is available, and it's there for free. Thank you so much, Marshall Summers. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to take a quick short break, and then I'll open up the phone lines. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter. But listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
Hey, can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. The holidays are coming. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm opening up the phone lines right now. 323-825-5045. 323-275-9695. This has been one of the most insane weeks ever. Could be one of the most important weeks in the history of the human race. I don't know. I'm still digesting all of it. I don't know what the motivations are. For this type of disclosure to happen. It's in some respects it's been tiny, and on the flip side, it has been absolutely humongous, huge. Okay. The reasons for it, we have to seriously step back and examine what has just happened. It has not slowed down in the mainstream media. That's the first part of it. It has been ongoing all day, everywhere. It is certainly huge news. But what do we do with it? And the other part, and I do mean this, and I do want to hear from you, 323-825-5045, 323-275-9695, is why. That's the I'm gonna put out 2 or 3 or 4 different ideas here for the why. Marshall touched upon this tonight, and it is why, the why part. Why do this disclosure now? Is it because, and this is point number 1, are they trying to control what is happening? In other words, remember this video. Forget about the budget and Harry Reid and the warehouse that is in Las Vegas with evidence in it. You can put all of that to the side. The question is, why are they trying to control something else that they can't control? Is there another step to this that is about to get disclosed? But I think that is a big question that we have to ask ourselves. Is the why part? Are they trying to control something else that is not in their control? I have said over and over again, not that I am right or not that I know something. That's not the point. That disclosure, when it was going to happen, would probably be something that is out of the government's hands. It could be WikiLeaks. It could be a hack. It could be, and before I even say that, yeah, the whole Julian Assange thing was pretty comical, and his response to it. But it could be some kind of document dump. It could be a hack into some computers. It could be just something that has nothing to do with the government at all. Okay, and that's how disclosure would happen. Could it be, who said it yesterday? Was it, I think it was L.A. Marzulli. I hope I'm giving the right credit here. L.A. Marzulli said yesterday, what disclosure would be is a mile-wide craft, flying over Los Angeles, flying over New York City, Independence Day. Certainly that would be disclosure. But is there something like that is happening? We just had this interstellar object go through our solar system for the first time. There are reports now that it's covered with organic material. I did read that. We're trying to get radio messages off of this. We certainly are trying to ping it. Are they aware of that? Is it just some type of probe? It could be that as well. But all of this is happening at the same time, as well as the FSBs, the fast radio bursts, the discovery of exoplanets, the bacteria on the outside of the International Space Station, and now this massive disclosure event this past weekend. This all went down in a big way in like 30 days. Tremendous alien news. I don't know what to make of it. But listen, everybody, this is what you've wanted. How many phone calls, how many guests have been dealing with disclosure on this program for the last 4 years? I ask you. It's a daily thing. The email, the post, the text, it's just disclosure, and then boom, we get it, and we almost don't know what to do. That's extraordinary. And the fact that the world is not freaking out right now says a whole nother message to us. That is what the reason why it hasn't been disclosed over the years or talked about over the years is because the world would collapse, economies would collapse, religion would collapse, governments would be insanity, and it didn't happen. We have had the most massive mass media blitz on disclosure since Saturday that one could hope for. It's all out there. And no response from the Vatican, no response out of Israel, no response out of the Oval Office, and it is certainly out there in everybody's faces. And it's not like everybody's throwing their arms up in the air, quitting their jobs, and losing their minds. We haven't seen this part of the collapse. Why? Have we been so acclimated to this question now, not only through programs like this and Ancient Aliens and books and conferences and documentaries and the X-Files and all the movies, has all of this done its job to the point where this is not that big of a deal to the rest of the world? It's a big deal to us because we've been wanting it. But think about it in those terms. And the way that Marshall went through all of this tonight, I think it was very compelling. I really, really, really do. Very interesting conversation. With that, let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hi, Jimmy. This is Paul in Vancouver. How are you?
I'm doing great, Paul. I am absolutely ecstatic. In the words of the great Mike Tyson, I'm ecstatic. I am. I feel great. How are you feeling?
Jimmy. I'm really very positive about some of these things that have come out. This past Saturday. And whatnot. But what it is that this is the reason that I called here tonight is you live, not just you, but we live in a world in which supposedly we live in these democracies, whether it is Canada or the United States, and our elected officials, the people that we voted to represent us, need to step up to the plate and take notice of these things that we value so much. If they don't step up to the plate and
who's
say,
they?
okay, well,
who's they, Paul?
Well, the people that we voted as our elected officials.
Don't you think they stepped up to the plate somewhat, to some degree, by allowing this video to get released?
Well, I'd like to ask you that question then, Jimmy. How is it that did they step up to the plate and allow that video to be released?
They didn't have to release it.
Well, I think that you just said that they stepped up to the plate and allowed it to be released. Did you not?
That's what I'm saying. So, but the question is, I think that obviously there was motivation to allowing that video out into the public domain and to allow it to get debated. There was a reason for that. Those reasons are nearly infinite. I can give you 10 off of the top of my head. Certainly one of them, and the obvious one, is to try to control the message by testing the waters, dipping your toe in the water.
And you know what? And I feel that. And I think that everyone else feels that. But I think the reality is that, you and I and everyone else in this community is infinitely aware of, we're aware of this, but that doesn't really extend into the mass consciousness of everyone else.
Well, it hasn't yet, and I think that, and that's a really good point. I think there are some out there, inside and outside of DC, inside and outside of this community, that wanted to see how much of that would happen. The effect of it. How far would this affect somebody? Did it affect you, Paul? Did you quit your job today? Is there no reason to pay taxes? Right? I don't think you have. Are you depressed? I don't think you are. Are you unhappy? No. You wanted this to happen. I'm answering all of these questions for you because I think that is a general consensus of not quite blasé.
Right, but I'm just as frustrated, about things as you are, Jimmy. But I'm trying to make some sense of this at the same time, right?
Right, and we all are. I mean, that's exactly what I just said, not only at the beginning of this show, Paul, but right before answering your phone call, I was asking, I'm confused. I need some answers here. I'm happy. I mean, I cannot believe that what went down on Saturday actually finally went down. But now what do we do with it? What do we do with it? How do we move forward? And this isn't the end. We can't go backwards now.
You know what the funny thing is that I'm starting to think that the way that you move forward with things is from within. You know what I mean?
I do. Now again. Yes. See, inside of this community, Paul, that's an easy thing to understand and do. Okay? But I raise the big picture here, the big question. And I'm not, when we have half of the world, 3.5 billion people that are in extreme poverty, I live in a home.
Yeah.
I live in a home, Paul, and I know that you do too. I've never met you. I don't know where you live. But you know what? I bet you got a couple of flat screen TVs somewhere. And I bet you have a computer or two. And I bet you have a smartphone. And I bet you own a car. And I bet you are able to go to the market every day and buy some food and some ice cream and things that you enjoy. You know what? 3.5 billion people in this world don't have that. They do not have it. So the ET question, what does it matter to them? What does it matter? Do they care about contact with ET? Do they even think about it? How does it affect them? And that is the bigger picture here. And that is where we got to iron.
The technology that what it takes for them to get here and all of that is, and that Greer and all the rest of them have been talking about is where it's at, really.
Well, okay, so if the bigger picture here is a technology, whatever it may be, that would allow free energy and homes being built, and that free energy allowing food to be grown and processed and distributed freely throughout the world, and we could solve so many issues. If that is indeed the case, this is
Jimmy, the technology and the issues that would be solved are immense.
But
it's massive.
But that's exactly my point. And so if that is indeed the case, those out there, right, if they can't make money off of that, then it's not going to happen. And the moral breakdown,
and that's exactly where it's at. And that's exactly where it's at. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know, man. I don't know how we move forward. And that's the problem that I have.
And
here.
you know what? And that's exactly it. I've said to myself, the way that you move forward is you organize yourself in groups, and these are in groups of people who you utilize the technology that you have to actually do it.
Yeah, you're right, Paul. You're right, but we have to. Seriously, this is the thing that is an insurmountable object in front of us, man. It's insurmountable. I hope that we do.
I know it's difficult. Yeah.
man.
Hey, Paul, thank you for the phone call, and we'll see you tomorrow night on the show. He's always brings up the right question. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hello, Mr. Jimmy Church.
My man. My man. I knew it was you. I just wanted to hear you say hello, Jimmy Church. Steve from Bluefield, everybody. Now, we haven't heard from you. I expected to hear from you, and it was tonight. How are you feeling, my man?
I feel wonderful, Jimmy, and I am tickled beyond belief that we finally have got the mainstream media on board, and I believe that we're really going to start seeing more and more and more of this information. It probably is not going to trickle down as fast as we all would like, but they have cracked the box. They have let a little bit of the information. They're saying, we want to tell you, but we just don't know how to tell you.
Man, and it is kind of the, dipping your toe in the water kind of thing. You know what I mean? You're at the edge of the cliff, right, man, and it's black out there. It's nighttime, and you got to feel the edge of the cliff a little bit, and you don't know exactly what's going to happen. So they did it this way? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, how did you deal with it?
Coming.
How did you deal with it?
Well, I mean, with a cheer. I was, tickled to death to hear that we're getting this information from the Pentagon. Okay, even though that to the stars, without a doubt had an influence. I believe with the release of this information, and I believe that they're going to help, push for more and more of that information to be released. But you're going to get to a point, Jimmy, where you can only release so many F-18 or F-22, or, F-14, whatever plane, video of these craft, and so many radar images, of these craft, before you're going to have to release something that has a little bit more substance to it.
And what would it be?
Yeah,
I know. And I so agree with you, Steve, but what would it be? What would it be? What do you do? Do you march ET out onto a stage somewhere holding hands and go, meet
Well, first,
meet Ted?
I don't think that we're going to see that. We'll probably get some kind of announcement from NASA that there's some kind of, non-intelligent life form that's been found, discovered.
Right.
It'll start there, and then a year or so later, then there'll be probably some announcement that we've picked up some kind of radio traffic. That, or something, or there's been some kind of evidence of a craft that is massive, or something that's in somewhere, in orbit or something, something to that effect probably. But I don't think they're going to march ET out, in the middle of, Good Morning America.
Right.
So,
could be.
Here,
that
have fun with that.
I have I've often, just kind of tripped out alone with myself. I'm watching TV, right? I'm, Good Morning America, whatever, some live broadcast, and then suddenly over the, in the background, some craft goes cruising by. And because that, when you least expect it, right? When you least expect it, that's when it happens. Have you ever driven down the freeway and, you're just driving, listening to the radio, you're all alone, and you've thought to yourself, what if right now, boom, it happens, Independence Day, right? Have you ever had that thought?
Yes, Jimmy, I've had that thought more than once.
Right.
It's a scary thought in a way, but for us, for you and I don't think it's as scary as for the individuals that are not as open to the subject as we are. We know and understand that this subject is far older than, 1995, or whenever, they released whatever the dates were on, the F-18 video. We know this goes back at least to 47, probably, further than that. So it's not as big as, as a surprise to us as it is to the people that, that watch Good Morning America and hang on every word, those type of people. It's going to be a shock. It'd be a big shock to those people. But to you and I, Jimmy, I think we're ready, and the UFO community is ready for disclosure. But the masses, they're going to struggle with it, Jimmy. There's going to be a lot of, bad things that probably come about because of it.
I don't. You know what? I'm hoping not. I don't think so. I think that we are able to. I think that the mainstream media has done the best that they could with this. Right? I don't think any of these hosts are experienced in it, and they've been in denial from the news directors and everybody else that works above them. That talking about this is something that they've it's so taboo in mass media. But I think that they're doing the best that they can with it for now, and it's only going to get better. Now that the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, that I think that we are able to hopefully control it. I don't know what is in store with what the Pentagon has and what they're willing to let go of. I don't know what Tom DeLonge has. I don't. He may have something else that is getting ready to come out. How, is it going to be a bigger bombshell than this? I don't know. But I think that we're able to control it because before, Steve, we didn't have this in our back pocket. This was the one thing that we were always lacking, and it allowed the skeptics and the government to go, you know what? No, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's not that kind of party anymore. That's the thing. That's the thing. We are able to any skeptic, that goes, well, E.T. Well, no, E.T. is here, pal. That part of it is that's been answered. That part's been answered. So we have a serious amount of discussion moving forward, and that is what it's.
I would definitely like to see the paperwork and the findings of this project. That they were spending $22 million a year with. What findings? I want to see those reports. Release those findings that they've been doing since, what did they say, 2004?
Yeah, 2007 2007 to 2012. And hey, Steve, I got to get out of here so we can leave on time. I'm 20 seconds late. So I'll see you tomorrow night on the show.
That, brother. But hey, Jimmy, congratulations on the 4 years and the shows and everything, brother.
Thank you so much, Steve. And do me a favor. Call me tomorrow night, okay?
I will, brother. I will, brother.
I expect to
Jimmy,
call.
always, brother. Thanks for the time.
Steve from Bluefield. My life is now complete. Steve from Bluefield finally called in. Fade to Black's executive producers Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm and Renee and Dennis and Bob. And announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster Drew the Geek. Music Doug Aldrich. Intro Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. Thank you to Marshall Summers for an amazing conversation tonight. Look forward to our next one. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, our first Fader Night open lines in year 5. Come and hang out with us. Open lines all night long in John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom. Until tomorrow night, everybody be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.